Hi, my name is Paris Grenier. I'm a student here at Stetson University, and today we're going to be talking about ADHD. What does it mean to have ADHD? What are the signs and symptoms of ADHD? What are some of the struggles that students have with ADHD? Some of the things that will help you with your ADHD. And also, we'll even hear from some of the students here at Stetson University that have ADHD. What does ADHD actually stand for? It's short for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Some of the symptoms involve like fidgeting, you'll see them messing around with their hands a lot, hyperactivity, they constantly want to be up and moving and just messing around. Then you'll see them have repetition of words, so you'll see them go and repeat themselves kind of. That tends to happen, or even maybe not words, but actions. So they'll repeat the same actions over and over again. There's impulsivity, forgetfulness, short attention span, mood swings, anxiety, sometimes depression. But it's good to know that ADHD is actually a learning disability. So students who have ADHD tend to do very poorly in school if not given the right treatments, or without understanding themselves and being able to learn how to learn and learn how to focus. As a certified pharmacy technician of 2 years, I thought maybe we would touch base on Adderall and how it helps, but also how it can hurt somebody with ADHD. So Adderall is prescribed to those with ADHD because what it does is it controls your central nervous system. So it's a stimulant that improves your attention span but controls your impulsivity. So how it works is that your brain has receptors for dopamine, so it increases your dopamine and calms you down, but also lowers your serotonin levels, so that you can function and focus and not have those symptoms of impulsivity, hyperactivity, just making you stay calm and focused. Although there are a lot of positive effects to taking Adderall for your ADHD, there's also some negative effects that you might want to be on the lookout for, such as sleep problems, weight loss, slowed growth, loss of appetite. If you're taking this medication at a younger age, it's kind of shown that your growth will be stunted, so you'll be a little bit shorter than the other kids, maybe a little skinnier than the other kids, which can really affect someone's self-esteem. So now, if you are not someone who wants to be on Adderall, that is totally fine, because there are so many ways and strategies that you can learn to teach yourself how to help you with your ADHD in the classroom. So the first thing is to sit up in the very front of the classroom. That way, there's no distractions. You can't be distracted by other students. You're just solely facing the teacher. Another thing that I noticed is a lot of my friends have fidgets or fidget cubes or something stretchy, something that they can pull and tug on or play with while it's going on, so that their hands are still moving and they're still being active, but yet they are paying attention because they're still doing something. When you're doing homework, make sure you turn off your phone and set it away from you. That way you can only focus on that and your phone can't be a distraction for you. Obviously, while you're in school, make sure you talk with your teachers or your school about accommodations, so you can get a individualized education program like an IEP, or extra time on tests, or using technology assistance, stuff like that, so that you can do your very best in school. But outside of school, make sure you get plenty of exercise, because you are so hyperactive that you need to move around constantly. And if you don't work out or exercise in some sort of way, that energy is just going to eat you alive. So make sure you're burning that energy. You can also meditate or do yoga. Sometimes relaxing things like that can kind of, chill the anxiety symptoms and that sort of thing. And then don't forget that you can always stop and take a break. Breaks are so necessary when you have ADHD, because when you are so stressed out about something and you're freaking out and you're constantly moving and you can't sit down and stay focused, sometimes getting up, walking away, and coming back in a few minutes later after eating a snack or drinking some water can really help you get locked back in. So now, knowing what ADHD is and some of the symptoms of ADHD, also not only the medical advice, but also the behavioral advice. Let's take a look at a Stetson University student that is going to explain her journey with ADHD.
My name is Mackenzie. I'm a junior. I'm a sociology major, and I'm a music technology minor, and I have ADHD. So my parents both have ADHD. So we always kind of figured I probably had ADHD. Also, my kindergarten teacher strongly suspected it. And also, I was in a research project when I was, I think it started when I was around 6 or 7, with the OHSU Oregon Hospital. So they did an MRI on my brain so they can say almost certainly that I definitely have ADHD. They're kind of testing for a variety of things because they're trying to test what effects ADHD has on people, on kids especially. So they had me do memorizing numbers, reading off words that were in different colors, like the word blue but written in yellow. Just different memory and focus games mostly. One of the first things was that my mom always really wanted me to be on medication when I was a kid, and I was always really afraid of that whole concept. So she started me on medication, I think in 3rd grade. And at the time I was like, this isn't doing anything, this is making zero difference. But my teacher was like, oh my god, it's like a gift sent from above. She's so much calmer and more focused, and she's not talking to everyone. Because I used to be a little problematic, because the teacher would try to put me next to different people so that I wouldn't talk to my friends next to me, but it did not matter who she put me next to. I would just talk my little mouth off. I mean, I had friends, but it wasn't easy for me to fit in. I definitely wasn't popular, and it was easy for me to drive people away by being annoying or by talking too much, and it was hard for me to gauge when I was being annoying. I've actually been wanting to get accommodations all throughout my schooling. I think I tried to get accommodations in high school, but my advisor was like, you're in honors classes, you get good grades, you don't need accommodations, which I found out later they're not supposed to do that. But basically she said looking at your transcript, you clearly don't need accommodations, so we're not going to give them to you. So once I was in college, I was like, can I please have accommodations? So now I have them, and what I have is I can take breaks, and I can get notes from the PowerPoint, and there's a third thing. Oh, I can get more specific criteria if I need it. And it was really fun getting a note from my psychiatrist with my full list of all the things that are wrong with me. And that's why I recommend accommodations. Yeah. I have a lot of things to kind of do with my hands. I have a lot of fidgets. In class I'll usually doodle or something, because if I'm just trying to watch the teacher and just listen with my eyes and ears, that's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna my mind is gonna drift off, and I'm gonna be this is so boring. So if I'm doodling a pattern or something, then I can be actively listening. But a lot of times I have to tell my teachers that ahead of time, because otherwise they'll get really offended. I had this one professor that was like, why is your head always down during class? And I had to open my journal and be like, this is what I was doodling, I swear I was listening to you. For my peers to know, I think just to be patient with me, because I know sometimes I can be a lot to be around. So to be patient with me when I'm being a lot. And for teachers, I would definitely say to be understanding of issues with focus and also issues with motivation, because sometimes it can just be really hard to sit down and get your stuff done. Especially when I was a kid, I would just want to let teachers of young kids know that they might really have to push those kids to make sure they're getting their stuff done in whatever way you might need to do that. Sometimes that means a lot of parent involvement, but then that can be bad too, because then you get dependent on your parent telling you to do your homework, and then you go off to college and you don't have that anymore. I think it's important to know that everybody with ADHD is really different. you know, it's not like I know one person with ADHD, so I know exactly what people with ADHD are like, because they're all like super different. Like, I'm someone that like talks a lot and gets really distracted. Some people are more like hyperactive and maybe more like sporty and like physically active just because they have so much like hyperactivity. Yeah, just like a lot of really differences with ADHD.
It was so kind of Kenzie to open up and share her story about her ADHD journey. Next, we're going to take a look at a boy's perspective and see how maybe that changes based off of gender or different struggles with ADHD, because not every ADHD is exactly alike.
I'm Quinn Dufour. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. Hometown's Joliet, and I'm a sophomore here at Stetson. I mean, ever since I was younger, it's been very sporadic with just like I've always multitasked. It's been hard to like stay still, like sitting down, even in class or anywhere. Just like staying still and like not doing anything really is like a bother to me. I was just like very hyper kid. Always been very hyper. Like my hyperactivity is just like, and my focus is like, for me, it affects my learning by having a hard time during lectures and different things like that, to where it's like an hour long sit down, just like hearing someone talk, where it's just like actually instead of like working on the work for an hour, because like I actually prefer doing like labs, like physics labs, because then the whole class you're actually doing something, you're working or something. Mainly just like sitting down and like I always have to like move my leg or like move my arm. I feel like I tend to annoy a lot of people due to my sporadicness and how much I talk. For me, definitely writing things down and keeping a set schedule, because I find myself having a lot of trouble with time management as well. So like having a set schedule and of like having things written down there saying do this at this time, do this at this time. That's like I eat lunch, then after lunch, like work on econ or work on ethics.
Now that we've heard from both a girl's perspective and a boy's perspective, how about hearing from a family member's perspective? So now we're going to take a look at a sibling of the boy to see how he deals with the ADHD journey.
Hello, my name is Alec Dufour. I am a junior at Stetson, a transfer junior. I am from the suburbs of Chicago. I'm 21 years old. I am Quinn Dufour's brother, his older brother. Quinn is 20 years old. We are 16 months apart. I think I kind of noticed at a really young age. He was maybe like 10 or 11, you know, when we'd be in school. My parents noticed it before I did, for sure, and got him medical treatment. But, you know, when at a young age, you could tell, and you can't focus on one or more things at once. You know, you're talking to someone and they're on their phone and they can't, you know, intellectually like have a conversation with you at the same time. I think if you want to talk about, you know, being an older brother to someone with ADHD, it takes a lot, especially if you don't have patience. You know, you're living with someone that can get on your nerves a lot, especially if you don't have that patience, and you need to learn different ways to cope with that, deal with that, and, you know, kind of help him through it and remind yourself that it's not really his fault. You know, I think the best way I do is sit there and listen to him speak and then, you know, comment afterwards. If you kind of interrupt what he's saying when he's saying it, you know, he has to go through it all again because it's all going in his brain so fast. Growing up, he has had a lot of problems with, you know, communicating with people, making friends, you know, battling depression, all these kind of things. And it could stem off the fact from ADHD. I think there's a lot of different factors that go into that. But I think my way as an older brother to help him through that was to bring him into my friend group and involve him with things that I was doing so that he didn't feel left out and you want to work with him instead of, you know, kind of outcasting. It's a really important, it's really something important to address. It's not something you should kind of throw out of the window. You know, people that battling ADHD are going to live with it through their whole life. It's not easy for them, and they know they have it, and they can't really do anything about it besides medication. So I'd say if you encounter someone, you know you are encountering someone with ADHD, you know, just be mindful and understand that, you know, sometimes their brain might not work the same way yours does. I think, you know, my brother is hyperactive and all these other things, but there are people with ADHD that maybe don't talk as much or aren't as social. You know, maybe it's affected them to a point to where they haven't had good experiences with communicating with people in the past, so now they just don't. You know, it doesn't make them any less, you know, of a good person, or, you know, just because they have something they're going through, it isn't their fault. You don't need to blame them for things like that. And keep an open mind and be nice to them.
Those were some really good words from my best friend and roommate, as well as my boyfriend and his brother. So it was really kind that they even let me speak to them about that, because I know that it could be really tough to talk about, you know, a disability, and especially when you're the one having the disability. So this video was just basically here to spread awareness, how to treat people if you have it, how to deal with it, what are signs and symptoms to look for. It's just to, you know, help your knowledge and spread awareness. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it brings you better knowledge to what ADHD is and how maybe you can help your friends or speak to your friends in the future.